Parshas Boy, the parsha of Yetzias Mitzrayim, the exodus of Egypt, the parsha of Yetzias Mitzrayim, of the beginning of Klal Yisrael as a free nation. And we're told that while they were still in Mitzrayim, they had the mitzvah of bringing a Korban Pesach. And there's certain similarities between the Korban Pesach they brought in Mitzrayim and Pesach Doros, the Korban Pesach which they brought throughout the ages. We're now, it's still right in the middle of Masechus Pesachim. We're learning the halachas of Pesach, of the halachas of Korban Pesach. Hashem should help us that we should be zeicher to bring the Korban Pesach. And the Daf Yomi, we're learning Masechus Pesachim now. And what it says over there is one of the differences, one of the ways that are differentiate between Pesach Mitzrayim and Pesach Doros, the laws of the Korban Pesach in Mitzrayim, was that they had to take gudas ezav. They had to take a certain type of plant, which is called ezav. Right, so it's a type of plant that has seeds on it. It's a certain type of plant, and they had to take this plant and then dip the plant into the blood, and then sort of paint the doorposts of the house with this blood using this agudas ezav. The agudas ezav does not appear anywhere else. We don't have to use the agudas ezav once we left Mitzrayim and we were burning Korban Pesach for hundreds of years in the Beis Hamikdash when the Beis Hamikdash stood. And Hashem should help us bring back the Beis Hamikdash and we should be able to bring the Korban Pesach again. There's no need for this plant. The plant was only used once, only in Mitzrayim. Why was it that this plant was used in Mitzrayim? Why did they have to use this plant? Shem Shmuel gives a beautiful explanation. We find other places in the Torah when we had to use this agudas ezav. What's the agudas ezav? They use the agudas ezav. We know that when a person gets tsaras, when he has the parsha of Tazrim Mitzrayim, when they have tsaras, in order to become purified, to become tar from the tsaras, one of the things that they had to bring with the tzipor, with the water and the birds, and they have to bring also an agudas ezav. Also, they have to bring agudas ezav. Says the Shem Shmuel the following: the Ramban says that when the Yidden first heard from Moshe Rabbeinu that they're going to leave Mitzrayim, they didn't believe him. They didn't believe him. V'lo shamal Moshe, says the pasuk. Why? Mikaitza ruach me'avodah kasher, from shortness of breath, and from avodah kasher, and from the terrible work. They were working so hard, and they had shortness of breath. Says the Ramban. What does it mean from shortness of breath? If they had shortness of breath, then they should believe anything. They should latch on to any sort of good news. And the Shem Shmuel says, you know what it means? He answers the Ramban's kasha. He says they were so downtrodden and so working so hard they could hardly breathe. They were missing life itself. They were dead, living people. They were living dead. They were working, they were walking, but they were dead. They were already, they had lost all sensitivity to anything real. And when somebody comes and says, you're going to be free, they just couldn't handle it. They were so entrenched in the work, in the avodas perach of working for so many tens of years under Pari, that Pari had broken their spirit, as the word says, as the phrase goes. They broke their spirit. They couldn't even be sensitive to hearing this type of news. They were completely dead. They were dead. They were mikaitza ruach. They had shortness of breath. They were living dead people. They were living dead people. But tsaras, says the Shem Shmuel, the symbolism is that by tsaras, we know that the symbol of tsaras is when the skin is not its normal living color. It, so to speak, dies. The skin dies. When the skin is alive, it's called basar chai. If you look in the parsha of Tazrim Mitzrayim, when there's not tsaras, it's called basar chai, the living flesh. And when it's not, it's like dead skin. It's like a dead skin. And there you need agudas ezav, and here you need agudas ezav. Said HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, before they leave Mitzrayim, they have to be alive. We have to take the agudas ezav, just like I'm going to say by the tsaras that you need the agudas ezav. Over here also you need the agudas ezav. Before you leave Mitzrayim, we have to make them alive. They don't even realize in what trouble they are. They don't realize how entrenched they are. What the Arizal calls the Mem Tes Sharei Tumah, the 49th level of Tumah. On a real level, they were totally desensitized. They had no sensitivity left to the real life around them. Shem Shmuel continues and says, we say in the Mizmor of Tehillim that we say on Shabbos before B'Shir Amalas B'Shua Hashem V'Shivasiyim Hayinu Kecholmim, will be like dreamers. And the Pasha Pshat is, it will be like a dream come true. We dreamed about Mashiach. And Shem Shmuel says, another pshat, you know what it means? We have been like dreamers. We were asleep. We couldn't even imagine that we could get out of the gullahs. That's how entrenched we are in our gullahs. Hayinu kecholmim, we're dreaming, means we're sleeping and we're dreaming, and we can't even, we're so desensitized, we have lost all sensitivity, we can't even listen to the message of the geula. That's how far we are, entrenched in our gullahs. That's what it means, Hayinu kecholmim. The famous story of Rabbi Yisrael Meir Lau, the former chief rabbi of Israel, who says about himself when he was freed from the concentration camp and he met Rav Schachter, who was one of the chaplains in the army who met him there. And Rav Lau says about himself, he said, I looked at Rabbi Schachter and I said, I'm older than you. I said, really? I'm older? He says, why? Because you're crying and you're laughing. And I have long since stopped laughing and I don't have the emotional possibility to cry. So it must be that I'm older than you. I have lived through much more than you have, said the young boy Rav Lau, the future chief rabbi of Israel. But he became such a dead person in the concentration camps. The Germans, they killed not only the bodies, they killed the souls of the people, and they killed the spirit of the people. That the HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving us this message here in Parshas Bo, that before we leave Golus Mitzrayim, the first thing is to become alive. At least be sensitive. Realize that Mashiach is coming. We're going to enter a land of Geula, a period of Geula, a period where life is real. Life is not going to be like now. Life in after Geula and before Geula will be like the difference between sleeping and being awake. Hayinu kecholmim. This is the message of the Agudas Eizai and the connection with the Parsha of Mitzrayim. Good Shabbos. Yeah, pretty cool.